Thank you for returning for part two of this very important topic of quarantining. Here I will discuss with you what I do with fish when I get them. We all have killed fish, as I said before, unintentionally. Know your fish, research your fish before you medicate. With clown lunches, I'm quarantining some right now. I will avoid certain medications. For ick medication, for example, you have to take a different approach. Educate yourself, inform yourself of what's better for certain fish. Loaches, you have to take a different approach. They are sensitive to copper and some of the medications on the ick medication, so therefore there are other antibiotics, other anti-parasitic medications that can treat ick also and does not affect them. Bring one of these beauties home and you put them in the tank. Just think of it that one of these beauties could be a Trojan horse. Okay, you put them in the tank, they may not show anything until weeks later, maybe months later. Out of all this time, there was one time that one of my discus that I had in quarantine expelled a tapeworm. Only one time. So I do treat them at the beginning. I usually would try to treat for parasite, which is something quicker. Then I'll treat them with some broad antibiotics. I'm going to tell you broad spectrum antibiotics. I'll tell you what I like to use and what I've been using. Since if I notice anything wrong, I quickly take that fish out, isolate it, and treat it. Some of these bugs are very resistant, and they may remain dormant until the fish weakens, then they'll attack, right? Some people will say, well, it's expensive. Medications are expensive, no doubt about that. For humans, for fish, they're expensive. So you say, well, I'm not going to quarantine, I'm going to just observe them, you throw them in the tank. Now, if your fish shows something, so right now everybody looks good. This red guy back here, or I think the one down here, he had actually one spot on the head. It looks like a little pimple initially, a hole in the head as it starts, and then it breaks out, and then you have the hole. I treated him while they were still in another tank having eggs. The wound completely healed, no scar was left, no hole was had. But again, I acted quickly. But what did I do? I separated him, but I also treated the whole tank. Yeah, it got expensive, because one of these big jars of medication, which I've used for quite a while, is still half full, but it's costly to treat that tank versus a 20-gallon, treating in a 20-gallon tank. So, but think about it. If I paid 150, 200, 100, whatever I pay for a jar of medication, one cost of one of these discus, not to count all the others, because the other ones are $5, $10, $15, $20 per fish, and you have multiple of them. You figure out how much are you going to lose. I guesstimated that I lost way over $4,000 between this tank and some of the other fishes that I lost. Whatever it's going to take to treat the whole tank, because if one fish had hexamida, you know that the rest of the tank, the bacteria is in there. Since I lost all these fish, I have not had any major outbreaks. If you maintain your water parameters, you maintain your water clean, and you do what you have to do, you will lose fish occasionally. They just there end of the life cycle. And now with this outbreak that I had of, I believe it was columnaris, because it's so-called Saddleback's disease. There's a bunch of other names that it goes for, but this particular bacteria is very resilient and very difficult to treat. And they say that most of your tank can be wiped out in about, within 24 hours. It was very difficult for my wife and my 8-year daughter, but she's 8 now, she was 6 at the time, to see fish dying every day. It was the thing to come and pull 3 or 4 discus every day out of the tank dead. I think the last 5 that they had, they were just up at the top gulping for air. And I remember a video that I saw, I think it's called Debbie, I think her name is Debbie Tim from Canada. She has a YouTube channel. She said she had a similar incident with her cichlids, and at the end, she said she told her husband she didn't have the heart to euthanize them. He said, just take them out to the backyard, do what you have to do, and euthanize them. I did the same thing with the last 4 remaining discus. I use clove oil, which I keep around, so if I see any fish is struggling and I'm not going to be able to save it, I would put a few drops of clove oil, not expensive, put them in a little bit of water, and they die very quickly, apparently without suffering too much. But that's what's recommended to euthanize fish, and I painfully had to euthanize the fish. I mean, I can tell you it was one of the hardest things I was going through every day, not because of the money issue, but I think my wife was suffering more to see all these beautiful fish suffering and just slowly dying one at a time. There was not a damn thing that you can do. If you're in the camp that says you don't medicate fish, just in case I'm going to spend money, I'm going to medicate the fish, possibly kill the fish with medication. Guess what? If they bring disease, you're not gonna kill that batch that you medicated, but you're gonna kill a lot of your other fish. So consider it an investment in your hobby, which is expensive and it's time consuming, as you already know that. But the investment is on your own mental health, on the health of your animals, for your family. I generally quarantine 4 to 6 weeks, no less. Okay, all these fish that are in here now, it took me way over a year to replace all 20 discus again. It took a long time to get it done. So again, I was not thinking of doing a YouTube video at the time. I didn't document anything on video, but I can tell you something, it was not an easy part. I'm going to tell you what I do. It works. Whatever you do for you or whatever other people do, it's different from what they do, but basically it should be a similar process of treatment, and what has worked so far for me during quarantining, and also treatment if I see anything wrong. This is part of my arsenal for treatment. I use a lot of these products here. I'm not endorsed by anybody, but I use Everything Aquatics. Dina is the owner of the company. They're based in Oregon somewhere, and I have used her products for a while. When I first get fish to the house, usually I let them be for a day or so, but often I start treatment right away. One of the first things that I do like to do is treat them for parasites. What I'm currently using is this Absolute Wormer. At the beginning, this is a one-day treatment. They recommend that you use it once a month as a regular thing to prevent stuff. So I've been using, not necessarily every month or so, but I have been trying it periodically. So what you can do is you can do this 1 week is 1 day, and then in a week later you can repeat it again. In the quarantine times I try to do that sometimes, but at least I hit them with this first because it's 1 day. When I had this outbreak that killed most of my discus, one of them had a very bad, it was sad, he had a very bad hexamida and hole in the head, and some of the other fish was beginning to get them. So Trio powder, there's other companies that makes this general Trio. It is metronidazole, nitrofurazone, sorry, okay, and he also has kanamycin or Kanaplex by Seachem, okay. It has all those 3 products in one, works together well. Even the loaches who are very sensitive, they are being treated with this that are now in quarantine. The 3 together, they always a very broad spectrum antibiotic. Same ingredient. I get this large jar because I will periodically treat the tank. If I notice anything funny, I just hit the whole tank together because I'm not taking a chance. As I said before, I am overcautious. So this one I recently got and I'm treating it. This is it's a sulfa. They say it's better than the triple sulfa. I can tell you that in general medicine, for people, no antibiotics, very few. Some of them are 1 dose, depending on what you're treating. But generally, metronidazole, which is flagyl, common name for it, it's a 10-day treatment most of the time, 7 to 14 days treatment, depending what bug you're treating. And these bugs, I can tell you, they're resistant. So if you're going to do a medication for 3 days, basically 3 treatments for fish, for bacteria that are resistant, I'd rather go with 10 days and spend a little bit more. I'm not taking a chance again, as I said. Now, I do come back and I treat again with Metro, or I'll do this one again, because remember, you're going to kill any live things that are there, any actual worms, but then you're also going to have eggs or something that are going to be still lying around, that once they come to life, then you can then hit them there if they show up a little bit later. So you should follow these parasitic treatments, especially for hexamida. You should follow up after 2 to 3 weeks after, because any eggs or anything that is not the actual organism, any larvae, they don't get affected by the antibiotics. So once they come to the adult form, then you can affect them. I can tell you that I have not had any white poop in a long time. I have not had any hexamida in a long time, except that one incident with daddy discus here that got one hole in the head, just the early pimple, the way they look when they're first beginning, and I quickly isolated him, then hit the whole tank. Not only this one, I hit all of them, and I take measures to avoid cross-contamination. The suction tube that I use here to drain the water, I try not to use. I use if I use a net on one side, I'll put it on the side, and then wash them periodically, run them in bleach at the end of the week. But I try as little as possible to cross-contaminate with the tanks. You can use any products that you want from any company, but I've only been using these products because they have worked for me. You do whatever works for you. Everybody has their own system. This is something that I found that has been very effective for me, and I'm combining a little bit of the common sense of 40 years of human medicine and live experiences and real experiences with the same medication, treating fish. So if you treat human one way, I know fish are a different organism, but the organism that causes the disease, they're the same. So I hope that this was hopefully useful to you. If you have not done so, please subscribe, share, like, and press the notification bell. Thank you for your support and visiting our channel.